Both sides will be losers in this trade war, he tells me. We have to sit down and try to resolve this.
Anna Coren joins us now from Hong Kong. So, Anna, you gave us good insight into how businesses are looking for new trading partners. What are whole countries doing?
Well, Maurice, let's take into consideration Japan and South Korea, two of America's strongest allies here in Asia, if not the world. They have not held trade talks with China for more than 5 years due to geopolitical tensions, but that's exactly what their trade ministers did on Sunday, meeting with their Chinese counterpart to talk about strengthening supply chains, speeding up talks on free trade agreements. They are hedging their bets out of necessity.
And is China behaving differently because they've already been through one round of trade wars with the first Trump administration?
Well, John, when the trade wars began back in 2018, China was caught completely off guard. This time round, they are prepared. I'm hearing from Chinese advisors to the government that they are prepared for 60% tariffs. Remember, that is what President Trump threatened on the campaign trail. And the message coming out of China is that it is open for business.
Okay, Anna Coren tonight, thank you.
Now, more of the top stories from around the world in tonight's Evening News Roundup. Beginning with a show of military might by China. Beijing calls the drills off of Taiwan a warning to those pushing for the island's independence.
Sources tell CBS News President Trump will consider a final proposal tomorrow for the sale of TikTok. Saturday is the deadline the president gave TikTok's Chinese parent company to sell its stake in the app, or TikTok will be banned in the United States.
Attorney General Pam Bondi has asked federal prosecutors to seek the death penalty against 26-year-old Luigi Mangione. He's charged in the shooting death of United Healthcare CEO Brian Thompson on a New York City street.
And CBS's senior transportation correspondent Chris Van Cleve spoke with Senator Ted Cruz today about the thousands of close calls involving military aircraft. The Texas Republican asked to see the data so he could look into it further.
Does something need to be done to look at how the military operates inside the United States and airspace around airports?
Look, those numbers, as you relay them, are certainly concerning. I haven't seen the particular study you did, and I would say I would very much like to see them, so I would love to see the details of that study. But as you describe it, that's deeply concerning.
The mass firings of workers at federal health agencies is underway. Termination notices went out this morning.
Thousands of jobs are being cut within the Department of Health and Human Services, at the Food and Drug Administration, the National Institutes of Health, and the Centers for Disease Control and Prevention.
We spoke today with Tom Frieden, who headed the CDC from 2009 to 2017. Dr. Frieden, 20,000 in cuts from Health and Human Services is undoubtedly more than you would think is wise, but zero cuts is probably not the right standard either. So where should the efficiency at the HHS land?
The administration seems to be starting with a goal of reducing large numbers of staff, but when you look at what those staff are doing, they're protecting Americans. This is a recipe for disaster. It's not going to make us healthier. It'll make us sicker. It'll increase healthcare costs for families, for communities, and for the country.
With these cuts, without these people, what could people see in practice in their everyday lives?
An outbreak comes to your community, there is no availability of people to surge in and help stop it. A disease starts anywhere in the world, and you want to hear about it and find out from the actual scientists and experts who know about that disease what the risk is to you and your family. You don't have those people to rely on anymore.
And what about down the road, Dr. Frieden? Sometimes there are things that are not as immediate, or things that once they happen, it's too late to suddenly stand up a force to combat it.
One of the most important things the CDC does is to track health trends. Whatever you think we should be doing about them, we absolutely need to know what's happening. I'm afraid what we're seeing here is an approach that's saying, let's hit a number. That number is the number of staff we get rid of. How about hitting a number, the number of people who don't get diseases that we can prevent?
Dr. Tom Frieden, former director of the CDC, thank you. We asked HHS, the CDC, the NIH, and the FDA for an interview about the job cuts. They either declined or did not respond.
Still ahead here on the CBS Evening News, Rob Marcy.